Welcome to the Flip Lifestyle Podcast, where life always comes before work. We're your hosts, Shane and Jocelyn Sams. We're a real family that figured out how to make our entire living online. And now, we help other families do the same. Are you ready to flip your life? All right, let's get started. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Flip Lifestyle Podcast. It is great to be back with you again this week. Super excited to talk to another member of the Flip Lifestyle community so we can help them start, build, grow an online business that can change their family's future. And I'm super excited to welcome Matt Walker on the program today. What's up, Matt?
Hey, Shane. Thanks so much for having me today. I'm super excited to be here.
Is that a classic Audio-Technica 2100 microphone that you're talking into right there?
It is.
Classic edition.
It's a classic.
It's the silver. See, I got the black one, the X, the new one.
Yeah.
Oh, but that silver one went through. I went 500 episodes of the podcast or something like that. So
absolutely, it's the new model came out and it's like, I don't need to upgrade. This one works great.
I ordered a couple of the old ones. I still have them in boxes, and I'm like, just in case.
Just in case.
Real quick, just get everybody caught up here. We'll talk more about your story in just a second, but just tell everybody about you, your background in a couple sentences, and then your online business.
Sure. So I work as a high school choir director, grades 9 through 12, and actually started out my education in vocal performance, and then did some things with that and decided I really want to go back and teach choir. And so I've been doing that this is my 15th year of teaching. Wow. High school. So taught middle school for a couple of years, but yeah, it's been 15 years every year teaching high school. So 17,
18 total in the system in teaching?
15 total. So so
the first couple were middle school, basically.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. And then three different schools. So
yeah. Did you always so you didn't want to be a teacher? You just decided to go back and do that? Like, what were you doing like before teaching? Were you just like what led you to the point, like, you know, where you decided, hey, I'm going to go into the schools. I want to be a teacher? Because that's not a decision to take lightly.
Right.
Surround yourself with high school students at all times.
It's funny because, you know, if you would have asked me back when I was very young, I would have said, there's no way that I'm doing this. My mom was a music teacher over 35 years, almost 40 years. And I saw how hard she worked. I saw, you know, how at times stressed and overwhelmed she was. And I was like, I'm never going to do that. I'm never going to do that to myself. And just through my journey through music and through education, I'm a perfect example where it's not about your plan. It's what God has in store for you.
That's right.
And that is where I ended up. So I started in vocal performance, which is essentially, as a classical singer. And so then along with that, teaching private voice, I had my private studio with teaching voice lessons. I also taught at the collegiate university level a few years teaching private voice, and had done my music education schooling for the most part, hadn't quite finished it. And so I had to go back and finish a couple of those classes and, you know, do my student teaching, and then got into, teaching public school from there.
So what is it like? Like, I see people who are vocal coaches, and it's funny because as I have been speaking more, like, I've noticed that, like, oh my gosh, like, I've started hiring like people to like help me with like maintaining my voice. You know, there'll be times I'll speak 2 8-hour days back to back, 8 hours. And like, then I'm on a big stage, like 8,000 people. And like, I have to project almost like a singer does, you know? And I started like having a lot of trouble keeping my voice. My throat was getting sore. Hydration was a terrible problem because I was breathing through my mouth. And now I know how to like go through the nose and come out the mouth to hydrate my vocal cords and stuff.
Right.
And like, it's crazy. I always thought, why would anyone need a vocal coach? You either know how to sing or you don't. But no, that is not true. Like,
yeah, it's like I talk to my students, like, singing is a learned thing. It's just like where you go to learn math or you go to learn science. And there's this misconception that, we see all these singers on TV and all these different shows, and it kind of appears like they just fell out of bed and knew how to do it. It's like, no, there's actual technique and really, years and years of practice behind that finished product that you see.
Especially if you're going to go out on the road, because like if you're doing a concert every 2 days, like you've got to have a coach to is monitoring, watching, and telling you what to do. In the vocal performance, did you find you coached more people who wanted to be singers, or did you coach people who wanted to be they were singers and they wanted to improve or project better, or which one did you find the most of?
It was a little bit of both. I mean, I had people that came in that were already singing but wanted to improve their skill set. And then I had at my master's degree, I was teaching non-music majors. So there were some students coming in had no singing background whatsoever, and they just wanted to learn the basics of singing and the basics of vocal technique. And like you talked about amplification, in the classical world, there is no amplification. So you're training and you're learning the techniques behind how to sing in a healthy way, but also to project your voice. And so, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, where were you at the time when you were doing those vocal? I would think you'd had to have been in a city or something, right? Because you have to have enough customers to seek out vocal performance coaches, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So my master's degree was at the University of Iowa in Iowa City. And so then there were a couple of other small colleges here in Eastern Iowa where I was teaching
Students
there.
Were there. Gotcha.
Yeah. And Iowa City is close to Cedar Rapids. They're both, for Iowa anyway, pretty good sized cities. And so, able to pull in people from both cities. So,
yeah. So are you an Iowa or Iowa State fan? That's the real question.
I'm Hawkeyes all the way. I'm sorry. I forgot to wear my Hawkeyes hat for you.
I think we just played in a football game though. And I think Kentucky won. So I had to stick that one right in your rib cage before we move any farther. So.
Funny story with that. In my brain, I was like, in my brain, I'm just going to do a gentleman's bet with Shane on who was going to win that game. But then maybe it's
glad you didn't.
It was my Iowa Nice. I said to myself, Kentucky's probably going to win. It's like, that's not even any fun. And so,
I better not mention this. I'm not going to talk about this in the forums. Oh, that's fine. Okay, cool. So now how are you translating all this experience into the online business?
So when I went back then and finished my degree and then got into teaching, I was several years removed from my education classes. And so I really found myself searching for resources and strategies as far as professional development goes, because, professional development in schools for teachers is practically worthless. And for an arts teacher, it's even worse. Terrible. Because nothing related to what I did every single day as a music teacher. And so I was searching out all of these resources, books, videos, going to conferences, workshops, all of that. And I came up with a couple of different things and shared them with a couple of fellow choir directors. And they're like, Matt, this is great. You really need to share this. And so I kind of always had that back in the back of my brain. And then a few years ago, I found myself, sort of asking, how can I do more? Or is there more to all of this? How can I have a greater impact on the world of choral music education? Because a lot of the people that sort of are quote unquote influencers in my field, they're all doctorates and PhDs. They're all university people. And I have no desire. I don't have the time or the money to go back and do another degree, but I still have this desire to help other choir directors. And I had a number of student teachers that came through that I worked with, and I really enjoyed that experience. And so I started listening to podcasts, and I ran into Pat Flynn. and started listening to his journey. And I had a few of these resources already created. It's like, what if I sort of format these and find a way to share these? And so that was when I created my website. It's called the Choir Director Corner, because, thinking about, before the internet, before phones, where did people meet? Well, you just kind of met out on your doorstep, out on the street, out on the corner. And so,
yep.
yeah. And so, just like, this is a place where choir directors can meet and share resources, share stories, share ideas, and really sort of collaborate. And so
right now, I'm going to type it in just so I can pull it up.
Oh, sure. And so, I just kind of started binging these.
It's Choir Director Corner, not the Choir Director. I gotcha. .com. Gotcha.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And started binging his episodes. And so I was out mowing my yard when I ran into the next episode, pulled up on Apple Podcasts. And it was this couple. It was Shane and Jocelyn Sams. It's like, okay, well, I'll listen to this episode, and started listening. He's like, well, these guys are teachers just like me. How cool is this? And I'm literally mowing my yard as I'm listening to you, and then going on then further. It's like, okay, well, I got to find these guys.
Talk about mowing in my yard and finding Pepin.
Yeah. And so then I found your podcast and going through, your episodes, and where I'm literally mowing my yard as you're telling the story about how you were mowing your yard when you found Pat Flynn. And I'm like, okay, if this isn't somebody trying to tell me something, I don't know what is. And so that was then when I got the idea from you all of memberships. Because I was thinking about, okay, well, maybe how could I monetize this? And I didn't want to do the teachers pay teachers thing where you're selling one-off things for $2.50. And just like, okay, that doesn't seem like a really good business model. And so I just started binging your episodes, became a member of the community, and just really quick, that was when I then got into WordPress and created my website and created my membership.
This reminds me of Jocelyn's niche, because elementary librarian is very similar. Like, there's only one choir director in every school, probably, and it's kind of a lonely
for
deal,
most schools.
Not
really
getting a lot of support. Yeah, that's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me more about the product real quick. Before, what does the product look like? Like, are you selling it as you can get your PD, or it's more like, hey, I'm your choir coach, basically?
Yeah. So I envisioned it essentially as serving as a consultant, and providing these resources as a form of professional development for choir directors, which is what the online courses are, where, each course is about a different topic. And, I'm creating slideshows via Keynote. And so it's just video recordings of me teaching to these slides. And so there's, 8 or 9 courses in there currently. And I try to add more every so often, just as professional development. I haven't gone the route of being able to offer them for essentially continuing education credits or graduate credit. I've actually just recently started to look into that, because
that's kind of a nightmare, honestly. Because when we were going to do that, but here's the problem. It's not even like a state problem. Like, every school district determines what counts for PD and what doesn't.
Right.
So what we did there was we just added a certificate, basically, to it. We just said, hey, we'll give you a certificate. This proves you did it. If you want to take it to your board, and they'll approve it. But most boards did. Now, a lot of boards, they would take it and they'd be like, yeah, that's great. That's right online, right? Mm-hmm. They would check it out and it would be cool. So it was never a problem for us to just, but we tried to how do you become a professional development person or whatever? And it was just a nightmare, because every individual district and every individual state, hundreds of different processes, And I see you have a podcast too, right? The Choir Director Corner podcast.
Yes. And so that was kind of a COVID thing. So, when COVID hit, I decided, okay, I'm not going to really actively market the membership, as I already had the membership created at that point, but I'm going to use that time to create content. So it's creating more content, serving my current members. And I started the podcast.
How many members do you have now?
Right now, let's see, we just added a few more here in the past week. I think I'm up to 58.
Dude, that's awesome. You got 58 members. Everybody always say, is this too niche? Matt's doing choir directors, people. I mean, come on, man. Like people, it's like, it doesn't matter. Like I always talk about this guy. His name's Kenny Troiano, and he teaches people how to raise chickens in their backyards in cities. So it's a total wild niche, right? And like he only has like a few hundred people like on his Facebook page or whatever. But like it's so niche. I'm looking at your podcast art. Can I critique this before I get into questions real quick?
Go for it.
On your podcast art, the choir director corner is written really small.
Oh, is it?
And
okay.
Yeah, let me make sure. Is this the actual art? I'm looking at the art. Let me look in the podcast directory and see what it looks like. I'm looking at it and it's got like all the musical notes and it says the choir director corner in the middle.
Yep.
Let me look at this. Just want to make sure. There it is. The choir. You're the top choir podcast on the planet Earth. Let's see. Yeah. Same thing. It's like really thin. I mean, I get the musical notes, but you want to be big and bold with your title. Like it needs to be stacked. The choir director corner and make it bigger, and then push all those musical notes up almost like the border or the outline. I don't get too into design. I'm not the design's beautiful, but the problem is this is I always tell people to be clear, not clever. There is a clearness problem here. Like the font and everything is squished inside those musical things. And if I'm a choir director and I type this in, I could skim right past this.
Yeah.
You know? So just real quick, I wanted to notice that because I did notice it. But man, dude, congratulations for getting 58 members already. I know you're working hard in the community. I know you're doing amazing things. We see it. And it just goes to show you, man, a choir director has 58 people paying him. Like, that's amazing. Like, anyone can do this with your God-given skills, your God-given talents and ideas. We're at this place. You see some like fears that you had in the beginning when you were launching this thing.
So one of the fears was, I talked about how a lot of the quote unquote influencers in my field, they're university, college people or professional people, they have doctorates and PhDs. And here's me just, lowly little high school, middle school choir director. I'm like, are people really going to listen to me? Are they just going to be very judgmental? It's like, who is this guy feeling like he should give his advice? Who is he to do this? But the more I listen to you and your podcast, you say something about all you need to be is one step ahead of the people that you're teaching. And as it turns out, I'm finding a lot of people that, I am multiple steps ahead of them, and they're getting a lot of value out of the resources that I provide. So,
yeah, man. Do you still have that fear a little bit though? Some days, do you wake up going, "Oh, I don't have the PhD in music curriculum or whatever"? Like, do you ever feel that way?
Yeah, I think there's always that imposter syndrome. I think especially for artists, I don't think it ever really goes away. But there are a couple of things that happened to me as far as just general life in the past couple of years. Past 3 years, I've lost both of my parents. Yeah. So, my mom passed away from cancer. My dad had Parkinson's. And I think that changed my life perspective a little bit. Just kind of like, why am I wasting time on these naysayers? Like, why do I care about these people that they're not my audience? If anything else, they're maybe just jealous that they're not doing more with their career and with their calling. Why am I wasting my time on that when I could be using my time to serve people that really need it?
Yeah. And that's the thing too, is I think this fear comes from at the beginning of your journey. Like, people go into it going, they want everyone to agree with them. I hear this manifested too sometimes like this. I wouldn't do that. Right? Like, because sometimes we wouldn't buy our own products. That's just like, it's so true. Like, you would not buy your own thing. Like, I just wouldn't pay for this. But like, you're not selling to yourself. I mean, you're like, someone else does need what you have. And like, you have 15 years of experience as a choir director. Like, if I have less than 15 years, like anyone with 10 or less is probably still struggling. That's how teaching works. And like, man, it's not that they want it. They need somebody to like help them figure out how to handle even like classroom management still in the choir room, because it's totally different than in the U.S. history room, right? I can tell them all to sit down and be quiet. You're like, stand up and open your mouths. Like that's a totally different environment, man, that you have experience in, you know?
And there's people in my membership that have even more teaching experience than I do. Exactly. And they're still coming and, you know, finding value in what I'm creating. So,
and because you're providing a forum where they can interact with other people. And even though they may have experience over you, maybe they don't have the ability to create what you've created for 58 amazing choir directors all over the place. Right.
Right.
What about now? Like now that you're on, okay, so you're at 50, 50 is a cool, there's certain plateaus we see everybody go through. 50 is a big one. When you get past 50, you're like, oh, this is real. I can actually do this. 100 is when it starts getting really real. Like that's when it's like, whoa. Then it like gets like the plateaus get farther apart. Not plateaus, more like the landmarks, like 250, 500, right? But I see the same kind of things happening to people as they go through our communities when they start memberships. What now that you're past 50 at 58, like what fears are setting in now? Like, is there a fear that can you grow this? A fear, can you lead it? Like,
yeah, I kind of felt, I did feel kind of that plateau once I got to 50. And so just in the past couple months, I've just been trying to take a lot of action, tweaking content in the membership. I've just added a monthly, what I call a collaboration call via Zoom, where choir directors can come and, you know, collaborate and ask questions and interact with each other. And started some basic Facebook ads, and I've used in the blueprint your training on email series. And so, you know, I've got freebies in these Facebook ads, and so then that will eventually go through the email series, and that's where I've added. Just in the past month and a half, 7 or 8 members. And so that is starting to bring in more people. So one of my goals is to do that more consistently moving forward.
It's interesting at that 50 mark, what happens? There has to be a shift, right? Like you've been consistent. I mean, you built a website, you've got members, you've been consistent. And I see people all of a sudden double down on their consistency and double down on their talent and go into their product and they try to tweak things and they try to do this. But I always tell people to be consistent, prolific, and relentless. And the prolific part kicks in around 50 to 100 members, right? Like this is where it's all about marketing now. It's all about marketing. Like everything is about marketing. You could spend 1% of your time on content right now inside your community going forward for a while. And it's like, it's just all about marketing. And it's not, you're doing the right thing. You're setting up the systems, but like, it's all about getting the choir directors to know you. Like how do you get discovered? Discovery is really important once you've got some traction, because if you get discovered, you can ask them to give you leads. So that's a really big deal right now, is like discovery. And the fear I think that creeps in though is like, okay, I did this and I got to this point, but like, can I go to the masses with this? Can I get this into a wider area? Like how do I know how to like scale this thing? That's kind of where you're at, you know, because, and what got you here won't get you there. You ever heard that before?
Yes.
Yeah. Like what got you here was like, you're Matt, you're an awesome choir director. You know what to do in the classroom. People love your content. PD's awesome. Oh, I'm with other people. That got you here. Now it's time to shelf that a little bit and say, okay, what's going to get me there? And it's just all marketing at that point.
Yeah. And I think once I got to 50, I thought to myself, okay, this is viable. I know this is viable now. And so now how do I take that next step? And I thought exactly what you just said. You know, what got me to this point is not going to get me to the next point. And so I think in some ways, choir directors kind of see what I'm offering as a nice to have. And I'm trying to find that one thing that makes it essential, where they see it and it's like, this is something I have to have. And we talked about lesson plans. I would love to do that, but lesson plans don't really work for choir directors, because what we're teaching is so based on the music that you're selecting. And there are thousands upon thousands of musical selections that choir directors could choose from. It's not like we're teaching rhythm one month and, pitch the next month and phrasing the next month. Like, we're teaching everything all the time. So what it really comes down to is those specific repertoire choices. And so I've thought about maybe doing something with that, but it is tough to do a lesson plan sort of membership or content.
And this is that obstacle that, like sometimes external niche things you got to think about really come into play.
Yeah.
Like music classrooms are different than history classrooms. They just are. So what works for my teachers and my stuff won't work for you. Librarians are different, right? Like that was way different because they had all kinds of different concerns because they teach 5 different grades a day. And, like it's all not even the same subject to each student, basically. Have you ever heard of Katie Wardrobe before?
Yes.
Katie Wardrobe of Midnight Music.
Yes.
Midnightmusic.com.au. So Katie's one of our friends, students, built a huge membership on music. And the way she attacked this problem with music teachers and music directors and choir directors, I'm just kind of lumping all the people that play instruments and sing in one bucket, right? You got the music teachers, the choir directors, the band directors. So how she attacked this was, and it's a little bit younger age, I think, than high school. She shows music teachers how to use technology in their classroom. So the music choir director is often the expert, but her angle is like basically is I'm going to show you to use technology. How do you use iPads in your classroom? What about all these Chromebooks your school district keeps giving you? What about Macs? What about PCs? Like how can you use the kids' phones, right? Like how in the world can you use it? Like how do you teach kids all these things? Like what microphones can you, what all these tech resources is what she does. So it's like, I'm a music teacher. I want to train on how to keep up with the times. I want to do that. So there's all kinds of angles that you could go into this to overcome this obstacle. It's like, like how can I, like right now what you're doing is like this professional development and it's a big place. And like I can see the desire to go into lesson plans or even more PDs, right? But I'm not sure that's correct, right? And looking at it from the outside in, I think one thing that I'm just seeing you're really good at is creating community for these people, a place where it's like the choir director listens to me. Someone is paying attention to me, do you find your people, or how are you creating community inside of your membership right now?
Well, I've got a number of avenues where I'm doing that. One is a Facebook group. There's not a lot of engagement, I will say, in the Facebook group, but it is something that I offer as part of that.
We're thinking about closing ours down.
Yeah.
Because we have a Facebook group and a forum, but to me, it's like double. It's the same thing. I don't know. It's not creating what we want to create, and I'm kind of like I'm sick of one of my employees logging in here every day.
Right.
It doesn't make any sense to me. Yeah. What else are you doing?
Well, for a while, I was doing just like a monthly Q&A. I was doing a monthly Zoom where I was doing a monthly training where I'd pick a different topic and would just do a live training, teaching on that topic. Those were not well attended. And I think one of the problems is just with teachers is just the lack of time. And then also the scheduling of those things. And so I'm trying this collaboration call where instead of like the webinar form, it's going to be an actual Zoom call where everybody can see each other. And I didn't want to call it a coaching call just because I didn't want to feel like Agreed. It was me dispensing knowledge. I wanted it to be where they could collaborate and really interact with other choir directors. So I'm going to start that. I'm hoping that's the avenue that really brings that sense of community into the membership.
Yeah. I think I'm wondering too, like if you like lose the Facebook, well, I wouldn't lose it necessarily, but like if that's the only place you're kind of congregating people, but like I wonder if you shouldn't do something even as simple as like forget forums, forget anything else. Like it's just that every other week collaboration call or how often you want to do it, but every other week. I think frequency would be important there, but like I think if you can focus on the community, and if you say, hey, I can really build a fostering community here. Like stop thinking about content all the time. Like, how can I make this the place where every choir director in America goes to, right? Any person who teaches music and leads a choir, period. I mean, I'm telling you, man, people don't get it. Choir teachers, band directors, elementary librarians, high school librarians, they have a weird gig because they are literally responsible. The whole program is on their shoulders usually, and there's not maybe one or other two people that get it in the building.
Right.
And having a place where they can come together and hang out and talk and it's just like, it's a weird thing, man. You're alone in the building when you're doing that stuff. I think if you just double down on community, man.
My only thought was, if I could find a way to make those courses eligible for graduate credit, that is something that all teachers need. Like, you've always, every 5-6 years, you've got to do so many continuing education credits. Yes.
That's different than PD.
Mm-hmm. And so that would be a very specific problem that I could solve, because they have to do that. They're always looking for courses that relate to their specific content or their specific teaching area. And there's not many courses out there where you can go and get graduate credit or continuing education credit and have it be actually a course dedicated to what you're doing. The only other way you could usually do that is go to an actual university and do graduate credit. And then it's like $900, $1,000 just for one graduate credit. So if I could find a way to make that possible.
How do you do that? Do you have to be accredited by a state or something? Or I wonder what you have to do to be able to give those graduate level credits out.
I actually had the idea where my wife, who's also a teacher, she was doing a course through, it was Colorado State University at Pueblo. And so they have a huge program where it's all continuing education credit. So you're doing the course online, and then, you submit the materials, you submit the coursework, and then you earn graduate credit that way. Because it's graduate credit from an actual university, like you said, 95% of the time, schools will accept that. If it's just kind of a quote unquote continuing education, it can be a little bit.
So you just have to find a relationship where people can do that.
Right. And so I've already contacted the university. And so they have a long list of different entities that they work in conjunction with to provide those resources. And so I'm hoping I can find a way where it's sort of streamlined that process and find a way to work in conjunction with them. What I don't want is essentially being a university employee. Like, I still want to have the freedom and the control over it.
So here's a trap though that I'm feeling right now. Okay. You are banking the growth of your membership on something you have no control over. Okay. This is a hard thing. I think it's a brilliant play. I know people in our community that do this. I'm pretty sure some of our nursing students do this, where they can go out and do some things. I know there's people that do graduate credit and also do PD credit, and they get certified and they do all these things. But that is totally, it's like I always know this is happening when someone says, I hope XXX. Right? And you said that just now.
Hope is not a strategy.
I know. Right? Yeah, hope is not a strategy. Hope keeps you going through real strategies. What you can control is selling a community of choir directors. What you can control is creating credits that could be available for PD. It's up to them to go submit them. What you can control is facilitating times for choir directors to hang out. And, don't ever bank your business on what happens with something like that. Here's another thing too. I think that people make this mistake all the time. They look at something like that is a brilliant idea, and if it works, it's going to be a game changer. And then they put all their time into that. And the problem is that's not growing the business right now. We don't even know if that's even possible. What's happening in between that and the person saying, "Cool, we made that work." To make the business actually grow, right? Like we always look at these opportunities every day and say, is what we're doing today going to run the business? Community is something totally in your control. Sales page highlighting community. Are you a lonely choir director? Are you sick of everybody disrespecting your choir? Are you tired of being alone in the corner or whatever room they put you in for the choir room so nobody else could hear everybody, all the music being played? I know how schools work. This is how it works. And like, if you're tired of all these things, this is the place where you're loved, you're accepted. We respect your work. We respect your artistry, respect your talent. We know what you're doing for the children out in the world that are making them learn this incredible skill. Like that copy is within your control. Promoting that is within your control. So I really want you to focus on that. Like, I think just focus on what you control right now. I would even say on the college credit thing, get to 200 members. Then you'll have enough money to hire some stuff out and you can focus on the college credit thing, because it's a great idea. It just might not, instead of doing A and B at the same time, we might need to go A, B, C. Right. I mean, and let's do A first. Because that's a rabbit hole, man. I know it's a rabbit hole because I've been down that rabbit hole times, What other questions do you have right now for your online business?
So my two biggest obstacles right now are scaling, which we talked a little bit about, and then price. I am currently at $10 a month for a couple of different reasons. One of the reasons is because, I work with teachers who obviously not the highest paid salaries, but getting into just the sense of value. And I think maybe I've struggled up to this point with raising the price because I'm just not quite sure my value would be matching a higher price point. When I originally started the membership, I was at 20. And then this past fall, I sort of relaunched and opened up to 30 new members. That's when I got to 50. And at that point, I said to my email list, says like, look, these are the things I want to add. These are the things that I want to tweak. However, this is going to be a significant increase in the time that I spend on this, which is why then I said I would be increasing the price from 10 to 20. And all it took, unfortunately, was one person, one hate email, who just said, "Oh, you're crazy. I have to pay all of these other things, and now you're asking me to pay twice as much," and blah blah blah. And I emailed them back, and we actually had a really good discussion because they didn't understand all of the costs involved. First of all,
was this an actual person who was already paying? Was that who it was?
It was not, because I told all my old members, your price stays at $10. Your price will not increase. Okay. This would just be for new members. And so I kept it at the $10 price point. I did add 30 members at that point, so that was a positive. But that, I guess, has maybe gotten in the way of me increasing the price, because I'm not quite sure.
It's pretty cool. You're making like $600 a month for a teacher. That's crazy good, man. Like, just to be making extra $600. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Right, I'm going to answer this. I want to talk about this for just a minute. This is the classic. Listen to someone who's not giving you money. Okay. Like, listen, I love everybody out there in the Flip Lifestyle community. I really do. I love our members. I pray for our families. I want them to succeed. But at the end of the day, like, we spend our time and energy on the people that pay. Like, if you go to fliplifestyle.com and you are a member of our community, or you upgrade and join one of our coaching programs, that's who we pay attention to. Because they're the ones that matter. They're the ones that pay the bills. They're the ones that invest in themselves. They're the ones that have raised their hand and said, I'm willing to go and work on this myself. And I'm willing to invest in myself and my family's future. Like, that's where I want to spend my time and attention. And you can't worry about the 90% of people who won't give you money. It's the 10% of people that join your membership that matter the most. You left your current members the same. That's cool. As long as it's a membership, you can do that. If it's a program that requires your time or new resources, you have to raise the price, and they can opt into it if they want to. I've actually raised prices on people in the past, and some people quit and some people kept going because we added things that cost money. And if you don't have money, the mission goes away. At the same time, people don't understand it, but like, the hour you spent trying to explain to that person why it costs more could have been an hour you spent on marketing to get 10 more members, So this is a huge deal, man. Like, and like, you can definitely charge more for your membership. I mean, especially if you're putting in more time to it, because everybody that ever comes to it in the future will see the price that it is and they won't ever go back. I mean, they ain't got no problem raising our gas prices right now. I mean, inflation happens. Prices go up. That's just the way the world works.
Right.
So yeah, like never, ever ask a non-paying person what they think about your prices. You actually do get to ask that question at the checkout counter. When they get to your offer page, when they see the price, if he said, I'm not joining that, that's his answer. Thanks for giving me that. I appreciate that data point. You clicked through and you didn't buy. Cool. But like 58 other people did, and when you raise the price, it's fine, So yeah, don't ever worry about that. And some people I always ask about price too. They're like, well, what should I charge? How high should I go? You raise it until someone stops buying. I mean, that's the market. The market tells you. You can't guess that. I'm the one who knows my industry enough to know what I should charge right now. I hate it when people do that. Like, oh yeah, well, you don't know my industry. Over $10, nobody would ever buy. Really? Hold on a second, because I know a lot of music teachers over at where is it at here? Let me find Midnight Music again here. She charges way more than you do. She's charging $39 a month for the community after you spend $97 to get a course. So I know I know Katie, and there's hundreds of people in her community. So there's a lot of people paying 4x what you're charging, right? So yeah, man, you just got to laser focus. Raise the price $10 a month every 2 months. Just, okay, we're having another price increase, and you see when people stop buying. But that brings me back to the original problem. You can't know your price until you add more people to your list and you get more attention and you get discovered and you build more audience. So that brings us to where the real problem is marketing. That's all you're doing. It's really marketing, dude, is where your focus should go right now. It's not the price. It's not what's in the courses. It's not even the community you're building. It's at this point, it's like, okay, I have an offer that converts. How do I get 1,000 choir directors to know about this? So like tell me, what questions do you have about getting more people through marketing in your business?
I guess, I just would like to hear suggestions as far as different avenues to go. Like I'm already doing email marketing. I've got an email list of over 3,600. So I'm sending them a weekly email, which is essentially an update on my podcast, whatever my weekly podcast episode is. But then I also include a link to the membership. I also include a link to the ebook that I sell on my WooCommerce shop on my website. Would you recommend, doubling down on the emails? Would you recommend, going through, more Facebook ads? Like there are a lot of choir directors on Facebook. That is of all the social media outlets, that seems to be the place where I can reach the most people. Maybe I should be doing both at this point.
Yeah. All right. Let me tell you what you should be doing. Okay. Social media is always driving traffic somewhere, and you're sitting on probably your most valuable asset that everyone in your community can listen to, is your podcast. So let me show you how, if you'll use marketing to grow your podcast, it'll grow your email list and your membership. I'm going to give you like 5 things that you can do right now to grow your podcast. All right, guys, man, we've been having a great conversation with Matt. This has been awesome. We've been tackling fears and obstacles, talked a lot about pricing, but now we're about to get into the nitty gritty. We're going to talk about how to use a podcast to grow an online business. And this is something I speak about a lot because I know how to do it. Everything we do revolves around our podcast. So if you want to listen to the rest of the answer to this question, all you have to do is be a member of the Flipped Lifestyle community. You can head over to flippedlifestyle.com. You can check out our Flipped Lifestyle Experience membership. Inside there, we've got a ton of training to start, build, and grow your online business. And members also get access to the full recordings of the Flipped Lifestyle podcast. You can go listen right now to Matt's interview with me, and you can hear my 5 best tips to grow your podcast, which will grow your email list, which will grow your online business. Again, head over to flippedlifestyle.com right now, click the orange button, and join the Flipped Lifestyle Experience membership today. So yeah, if you do all those things, then that will lead to you growing your email list and getting more members. That's pretty cool, right?
Awesome,
man. Cool,
awesome.
Man. Well, listen, Matt, man, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. Man, this was an awesome conversation. I'm glad we got to hang out because we've exchanged some emails, and like I've talked about you at the Lynn, and I've seen you in the forums, and like it's so weird, this world we have all created in our spaces, like where it's like I know you, but I don't know you, but now I know you, but then we know each other more. You know, it's this weird virtual meets the real world thing, man. But I know it can be a total nerve-wracking thing to come on a podcast, be so transparent about your business. But that's what I love about the Flip Lifestyle community is we got people like you in it that are not just in it for you. You're in it to talk and collaborate and help each other. And man, I tell you right now, man, I'm super inspired. There's a lot of people, man, $500 to $1,000 a month would change their life in this economy right now. And creating a side hustle like you've done that could potentially blossom into this replace your income kind of thing and scale your impact in the choir community and in music and schools. Dude, I was doing it. I looked at my U.S. history teacher numbers the other day, okay? We have had over 10,000 units of our stuff go out into schools. So if my stuff has been used at ushistoryteachers.com, if what we have created there has been used by 10,000, people, and they each taught it to 100 students, which we have 170 students a year when I was teaching high school, like it's 1 million people who have been impacted by the resources that I created and that we created in my company for U.S. history. So like it's the same thing, man. You're going on a big impact play right here. And it's super inspiring. Anybody out there with 0 members is trying to get 58. So they know they're looking that one chapter ahead to Matt Walker. So thank you for coming on the program today. And thank you so much for being so amazing and transparent, man. What a great conversation.
Oh, well, thank you, Shane. It's such a wonderful experience getting to learn from all of you. And thank you for all that you do.
All right, guys, that wraps up my interview with Matt Walker. Don't forget, if you want to listen to the full episode of this podcast, if you want to learn how to grow your podcast, like I told Matt how to grow his, all you have to do is be inside our Flipped Lifestyle community. You can join the Flipped Lifestyle community right now. All you have to do is go to flippedlifestyle.com, join our Flipped Lifestyle Experience membership. You're going to get a ton of amazing trainings to start your online business journey. And all members of the Flipped Lifestyle community get access to our community forums where you can hang out and talk about your business ideas. And you also get to listen to the full episodes of the Flipped Lifestyle podcast. So early access to the podcast, you get this full episode all inside the Flipped Lifestyle experience over at flippedlifestyle.com. All right, guys, before we sign off today, I want to share a verse from the Bible. Jocelyn and I get a lot of our inspiration and motivation in business and in life from the Bible. So I love to share a good scripture that kind of means something to me on every episode of the podcast. And Matt said something today on the podcast really stood out to me. He's like, how do I charge what I'm worth? How do I charge? I don't feel very valuable. How do I make myself or my product? How do I really charge the value of what this is worth out in the marketplace? This is a mindset issue that holds all of us back. But there's an awesome scripture in 1 Timothy 5:18 that addresses this specific thing. In 1 Timothy, the Bible says, "For the scripture says, you must not muzzle an ox to keep it from eating as it treads out the grain. And in another place, those who work deserve their pay." Another translation of the scripture says, the worker deserves his wages. Listen, if you're putting things out into the world and you're creating value for other people and you're serving other people and you're helping other people and you are spending your most valuable resource, your time, creating these amazing products and services, guess what? You are valuable. Your products are valuable and you deserve to be paid. The worker deserves his wages. So never be afraid to go out and charge amazing prices for your products. Don't let it be biased by what you're doing. Use your God-given skills, talents, and abilities to create value and serve other people. And that makes it A-okay to charge awesome prices for what you sell. All right, y'all, that is all the time we have for this week's episode of the Flip Lifestyle Podcast. If you love the podcast, do me a favor. Go over to Apple Podcasts and leave us a 5-star review. Tell me what you think about the show. I read all of those reviews. It helps us grow the podcast and help other people out there discover online business for their family. If you really enjoyed this episode, grab that link, share it on all of your social media networks of choice. And if you follow us somewhere else besides Apple Podcasts, leave a comment, leave a review, give us a follow, subscribe to the show, download a few episodes to take with you on the road. All right, y'all, that is all the time that I have for this week. Until next time, get out there, take action, and do whatever it takes to flip your life. We'll see you then.
Bye.
Funny thing happened just now. I went for a walk with my son in between this podcast and my last one. And my dogs somehow locked the screen door. Like they were jumping up on the door and we went, oh no. And like the key was inside and like the front door was locked and there was no other way. And I was like, what is the solution? I don't even know what the solution to this problem is. And so like I came back and the dogs were just like wagging their tails and they were in the office hanging out. And I was like, I am completely locked out of my office. So